I don't even know where to start about like
No.
cleaning up like 20 litres of oil from the floor. I actually have a real hatred for like professional cooking books.
It's great to be talking to Olivia Burt, who is the most fantastic chef and was actually runner-up in Masterchef in 2019. Can you tell us about your experience on the show?
It was an opportunity that kind of came up, and at the start I wasn't so sure. I think it puts your cooking to the test, which doesn't really happen in kitchens that much. You're always working as a team. One dish is coming up to the pasta, it's going out to a customer, and it's had, 8 or 9 different people working on elements of that dish. Someone might be the brains behind it, someone might be the cooking element. It's so many different people. So when you come into a competition where it's all about you, it is definitely a challenge. And so I think that's what I found. I think I probably didn't come into my proper sort of cooking self till maybe the semi-finals, just because the cameras, it just changes the way you cook, because you're worried, you're like conscious, you're not checking things properly. It's definitely a very interesting experience, and I think it's taught me a lot about my cooking style and how I work under pressure. So I've used a lot of that kind of going forward.
And how do you balance staying true to your culinary style in your cooking, but you're also sort of exploring new techniques and flavour?
I mean, I've always described my cooking as modern British, and I think when people ask like what that is, I would say that it's a massive focus on ingredients. We grow some of the very best produce here in the UK, and I think there's a very, like, British food has a very bad name for itself. And so I think it's more about focusing on those products, and when you work with amazing produce that's been grown really, really well, actually it makes the cooking so much easier, and that's kind of like telling the story. So I think then you have the freedom to use all the techniques you want to, because actually you're highlighting this local produce.
You're going to be doing some cooking demos at the Blenheim Food Festival. What can people attending this expect?
There's so many methods and there's so many techniques that we use in professional kitchens to perfect dishes every single time, and ways of seasoning and cooking that help with time management and definitely bigger numbers. And so I think when I'm in demo, I'm always trying to like demonstrate those small little things that really help people with their everyday cooking. And I think that's where a lot of my cookbook influences come from as well. It's like things that I've learned over the years of my career that change the way that you think about being in the home kitchen.
So is this book sort of useful for, not professional cooks who are just trying to do a nice dinner party? Or
I actually have a real hatred for like professional cooking books, like ones that no one from home can cook from. You can't get the products and the ingredients just aren't available, and then you don't know how to use them, and it just doesn't really make sense. There's a photo of every single dish in the book, and every single one was cooked and styled by me. I felt very like against having a food stylist. I was like, this is about what I do, and I just didn't want that. But yeah, that's why it's called Good Looking Cooking, because it's about like how it looks, but it's also like very good cooking. I met with so many different people when we were kind of in the phases of building this book, and so many people were like, I never cook a recipe without a photo, because I don't have anything to reference it to. And so I think that's also a really key element to the book. So that is where the real main focus is.
So when you're just chilling at home, what's your favourite comfort food to sort of cook yourself when you're just relaxing?
I love to kind of go all out when I'm at home. That's the thing. So like my cooking at home for me is kind of my therapy. Like there's no stress. I'm not cooking for anyone sort of specific. It's not a paying client. It's just like very, very chilled. And I absolutely love these like Japanese Komro barbecues. So in the summer I've always kind of got it out in the garden, cooking something on there. But one of the things that we love the most is probably like a picked brown crab dish, and pick all the fresh white meat out, mix it with some creme fraiche, chives, and kind of serve that with like fresh flatbreads that I've cooked on the Japanese barbecue, and like salads. And actually the recipe is in the book, but crabs are one of those things that some people hate, some people love, but it's never the same if you buy it pre-picked. So there's all the kind of methods in there with like all the parts of the crab and how I use them and how you pick it down and what to mix it with, and that's definitely one of my favourite things to do at home if I've got the time.
And any other sort of, I don't know, any guilty pleasures you have that when you're sort of not in the kitchen?
I mean, I love fitness. I just ran the London Marathon last week, 2 weeks ago.
Well done.
So I did that raising for Better, which is a charity on mental health and suicide prevention, aimed very much in the sort of sector of hospitality for me, and that's kind of how I met the founder. But obviously, kitchens are very hard places. There's loads and loads of hours being worked. It's very low paid.
Yeah,
it's
high
a really
pressure
intense environment. So mental health and suicide, very sadly, is really high rates in kitchens. So that's what I ran that for. And I think sometimes when you've had a mental day at work, actually like a run or something in the gym definitely kind of takes that away and allows you to just calm down a bit. But weirdly, my thing to do to calm myself down and de-stress the day is cooking, which is extremely strange. And it always has been that, but
it's absolutely brilliant. And what would you say is the most underrated ingredient that you love using?
Would be herbs, and probably specifically chives. I think lots of people will like follow a dish and then maybe they haven't bought the chives, and or the herbs, and I kind of get why, because you use a little bit of it and then they go off in the fridge and you're like, why did I buy that? Like of parsley or whatever. And it's something that not everyone puts on other things, and it's like that last minute thought that you kind of haven't thought of. But I just think they're a very easy way to elevate dishes, like fresh herbs mixed through or on top, and I just think it's one of those things you really notice the difference. Like whenever I make like a beef ragu or like a bolognese, I mix through cheese and herbs through the like ragu mix before I mix it with the pasta. And I always think like this makes a massive difference, and chives are definitely my kind of like number one herb, but that would be the one thing, like, people follow recipes like, beef, like tomatoes, no one ever misses those out, and then it's like herbs and they're like, oh yeah, screw that.
Whatever. Any sort of funny or memorable mishaps you've had in the kitchen?
It's always really hard. There was a period of my career where I was cooking for lots of brands, and I think lots of people were like, oh my god, that looks like the dream, it's just so much fun. I was like, actually guys, I spend more time like scrubbing the floor in the restaurant and cleaning out the deep fat fryer than doing anything glamorous at all. And 80% of cooking is sort of like cleaning and tidying away. My main mishap would probably be on my summer season, and I hadn't been in kitchens that long, so I was sort of just like, oh my god, learning on the go. And I hadn't been to Le Cordon Bleu at this point, and we used to have these massive deep fat fryers, and under them you have these sort of containers which hold a whole fryer's worth of oil. And so you take the hot oil out of the fryer in the night, you put it into the container, overnight it will cool down, and then in the morning you sort of put it into the containers to throw away. It was like the end of the night, we were all super tired, empty the fryer, but the containers underneath hadn't been emptied, so the whole fryer of oil went all over the floor. So we had like 20 litres of oil all over the floor, and I was like, I don't even know where to start about cleaning up like 20 litres of oil from the floor. I was like, every time I see a fat fryer now, I'm like, oh my god, just
don't spill it
100 times that is not the case, and it's not going to happen again.
Oh god, yeah. And if you could eat one thing for the rest of your life, what would it be?
My kind of go-to meal is probably always like fillet steak, chips, mayonnaise. That's always been the case, and I think if you ask a lot of chefs, they'll probably say something very similar along those lines.
My favourite thing, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think it would probably be that. Like cheese and biscuits do have like a very special place if you had to pick something like very, very specific, but that would probably be my last meal.
Delicious. Olivia, thank you so much. That was really interesting, and hopefully lots of members will be going to the Blenheim Food Festival and will come and watch your demo on the 26th. That is fantastic, 26th of May. Thank you so much, and you'll be signing your books as well there, is that right? Yeah. Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much.